Everybody. Okay, so this week we are still in a little bit of perspective. So last week we were doing more of the outdoor perspectives, and we're taking it inside this week. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go back over a few things from last week for a review because there's a whole lot to this perspective thing. And I had some other things prepared when the whole easel incident, camera incident happened last week. I forgot to even get to some of this. So we're here at interior perspective. So that's inside your house or inside any kind of space. It's just like the outdoor one, but it's the lines that we're talking about are kind of going opposite in a way. Not always, so because you still have like this line here, as you can see, is going to be the same, right, as if you were at the outside of a building. But then this one here in the corner coming, out this way with the corner. So basically it's the same. You can really get overly tight and worried about indoor perspective really, really fast. But I want you to just like not worry, just do what you can do and don't get tight with it. Try to be loose. This one is like a little bit in between. It's almost architectural drawing, but not quite. It has a more painterly approach, which is why I wanted to put that in as an example for you. But basically, when we started with this last week, we were talking about the horizon line. And just to clarify again, the horizon line, notice it's right here on this one at almost at the tops of these trees. It is not down here on the grass or the ground. So imagine your eye level, and as you are looking out, and we can't quite see past those trees, but you see these hills, the foothills that are coming down here and coming down here, right somewhere back in there. You can imagine that's going to be your horizon. That's where everything's going to converge. So hopefully that makes sense. Your horizon, it's similar to your eye level, but you might be lying on the ground. Your horizon line is still going to be up here, or you might be a bird up here and your horizon line is still going to be here because the horizon is the horizon. It's kind of like as far out as you can see, like if you're trying to look over the side of the earth. So just kind of imagine that perspective or that placement. Okay, so here again, we have the horizon line. And here it is at ground level, right? And we've got the vanishing lines. The vanishing lines, everything is going to go to this one. This is 1 point perspective. It's going to go to this one vanishing point right here. And then that gives you the perspective of the street. So, I mean, we know that the street isn't getting tinier. It's just getting further away and appearing smaller. So that's what the vanishing lines do for us in having a little bit of structure or understanding of it. You don't have to draw them in each time, but if you have an understanding of it, your sketches will make a little bit more sense sometimes, we hope. All right, so here we have it again. Here we have a horizon line just to show you, and a vanishing point, and to show you 1 point perspective like we did this last week, but this is a good refresher. Here you've got the vanishing lines coming to this point. All of these are going to come to this point. Then you're going to draw your straights, your vertical lines, and make your cube or your house or building or whatever it is that you're drawing. Since we're interiors, this might be your table, for example. So the table is going to obey by these same kind of rules of having a vanishing point. And that, again, is 1 point perspective. There's only 1 point on this horizon line that we're going to. Here is an example of an outdoor sketch where this is going to come into play. So you've got your horizon is somewhere here, back here. Everything's coming back to that point, everything here, leading back to that 1 point. And then there might be like a little bit of 2 point in here, but not, most of it's pretty straight on. So it's like, it's not even worth drawing out lines. Not that you would, but when we're kind of considering it, a lot of times we can just kind of imagine it and get it guessed in place. So where the door frame is and things like that, those little bits of perspective going the other direction. Here's another sketch of 1 point, pretty much 1 point perspective, all going back to a vanishing point, a single point. And another for you. Since I didn't get to show you these last week, we'll get caught up now. But again, on this one, even you can see, so even you've got these doorways again and windows and things that are going the other way a little bit as far as, it'd be way, way out on the horizon line to do a 2 point perspective. But this is mostly just showing 1 point perspective. Notice how the tops of the buildings are all coming down towards that 1 point on your horizon line. And this is coming to that same point. And again, for this same idea. So everything's coming down and converging on this 1 point on your horizon line that you can't see. These buildings are in the way, but it's coming way back here. It's gonna be somewhere in here. And then these are doing the same, straight down and straight in. And again, just the idea of stuff, getting smaller as it gets away from us. It's just a quick little scribble, but it still gives the idea of perspective. It's another one. This one I did from Webcam Taxi. I think both of them I did from Webcam Taxi. So that's a plug for going to that. I think it's a great place to go and find these sites and sketch, and get different perspectives. So here it's 1 point perspective. We're just looking down on it a little bit. We've got that bird's eye view as it goes back into space. But it's a little bit 2 point again going on because you've got the sides of the buildings too. But it's loose. This is a reminder to stay loose with it. Again, another 1 point perspective, but since you've got the stairs and other things too, you're getting most of it, though, all of those sides of the buildings can be guessed. What we're really talking about here, where we see the top of that building, top of the steeple there, tops all coming down to the same vanishing point. And along this boardwalk, sidewalk part, all there, boardwalk, all there. Everything's going to that same 1 point. And then notice too how the people work in this. So we're talking about putting figures in your sketches. These ones that are closer to us are a little bit bigger. Further away, they get tinier. And they're just little blobs of lines. It's not a whole lot to it to make it look somewhat realistic. It's just giving the idea. And the boats, the closer boats are bigger, further away, smaller. That's taking on some of that atmospheric perspective in a way, but also just the further things are away from us, the smaller they appear. And here's our example of 2 point perspective. So 2 point, you've got 2 different points on the horizon line, sorry. 2 vanishing points on the horizon line. And what we can see by this is with the outside of a building, like we talked about, like if these were buildings, this wall right here, everything's coming to this point. This wall, everything's coming way over there to that point. So it makes it make sense to us. If we are looking straight on, this would be the view. If we are looking from above, a bird's eye view, we would see the top. We would see the top of the roof of this house, if that was what it was. Or for this week, maybe the top of the coffee table. And that's the perspective we would have. If we're seeing the bottom of things, like we're underneath the treehouse or who knows what else, you have the worm's eye view. You're looking up and you're seeing the bottom of it. So it just sort of depends on your vantage point of what you're sketching from, where you're standing or sitting or flying in the room. So here shows you a little, just really simple sketch outdoors showing the 2 point perspective. So the building going off into the distance. Here's the horizon line straight across. The top of this, it's just your verticals are always going to be vertical, right? Unless the building's, the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something, but verticals are vertical. Everything else is going to go at these angles as it goes back into space. And here it's applied to a house. Here you've got your horizon line and a person, just to give you the idea. So the person is standing, and now you can see how they are in perspective to that horizon line. They're at eye level of the window. Imagine you're standing, out in your front yard, and you're right about there at the window level. You're not going to be the person, well, if the person's closer to you, it's going to appear that they're as tall as the house, right? If they're right closer out of the picture frame, like coming forward. But as it comes back, that person's going to be a little bit smaller, perhaps right there as they're standing against the window, depending how tall the house is. But they might be about right there, so it varies depending. That's why drawing from life, or even just taking it in, even if you're not drawing, if you're out and you're just whatever, you see your neighbor at their house doing some gardening or something, start noticing their height compared to their house, or where they're standing, and how you would sketch it. When you start imagining how you would sketch it, when it comes time to really do it, you'll have a better sense of it, an idea. All right. So here we have an interior. I thought I could break this down, I think. I can annotate. I was doing this earlier. Let me see if I can figure this out again. Maybe not. Where did that go? It was letting me do it before. We're good. I'm just going like, well, I can grab a line anyway. All right, so actually I'm going to come up here just to check one more thing. You'd never know I practiced this. I really found out how to annotate, and I was so excited. Now I can't find it. Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. I am just going to show you with my mouse, I think. Just sort of sad. All right. I don't want to waste your time. I'm so sorry. Okay, so if I were to put a line in, let's just see what we can do here. Line. Went where? Text. Shapes. We'll get a line. Yep, and it's, oh, there's my line. Okay, boom. Yeah, it's not even letting me change the color. You're not gonna be able to see this. So it's not gonna work. I'm just gonna show you. So on this, as you're looking, you'll notice like there's the water outside, right? That's a giveaway, because horizon is really easy to tell on the ocean for the most part. So that would be your horizon line right there. And imagine the line just extending all the way across. As you're trying to do 2-point perspective, we need to think about where our vanishing points are going to be. So if we follow, for example, the base of this wall, and we come all along the base of this wall, and we're going towards that horizon line, it's going to be right out here somewhere, right about there. And so you can follow it back. And if you go to the top of this wall, it's going to follow along and hit on the same spot. Oops, which, yeah, it should be like right around here, I think. Again, when you're doing the, like, even with the furniture, so see this coffee table, it's lined up pretty accurately with the wall. It's not like askew or anything. So again, this is going to come to that same point as it goes back in space. Same as then this wall along here, if we follow that, that's going to go to the other point on our horizon line. So we'd follow the all along the floorboard out to about there. And so that's going to also match up with where this is going and where really the front of the room. You could get super carried away with this, but just don't, because it's not an architectural drawing, but it's just helping you to have an understanding of where these points are going and where they're going to sit on the horizon line. So let's see. Let's just move on. As you can see in this sketch, it doesn't matter so much that they're entirely accurate. You're looking down and it's a really, let me see if I can make it a little bigger for you. It's a really kind of wonky view of this, but it's a lot more painterly approach. So it's a fun sketch, kind of looking at this whole room and how do we understand the space. And sometimes you get that just by trying, don't sit there and figure out all of it. Just start drawing and see what it is in relation. So even notice how the door is at a slant. It's not correct. The door is straight, but it makes sense in this particular sketch and from this guy's perspective, or girl or whoever. Anyway, they're sitting here and they're looking there, and it's all making sense. Kind of looking up at this, looking down, it's seeing everything at once. Almost Picasso style. So when you can see all angles at once, you get this sort of fisheye view that's really, really different, but fun and loose and definitely worth going for. Whatever room you're sitting in, just try, you could just try doing that if you don't get overwhelmed. So you might want to start with just like a little corner, just do one little section. Here's another one. Again, that same like overview of it all. This one has a little bit more, makes a little bit more sense, but even the floor is like, look, we're really slanting downward on this. But that's okay. I mean, honestly, I think it makes it really fun, and just look at the textures and the line work in this. It's just beautiful. So I'm showing you these just to remind you that you don't have to be completely caught up in perspective accuracy. I think this reads correct, even though this is wrong, but it reads beautifully. And it's just, to me, it's a much more pleasing sketch than an architecture drawing that's going to be, I don't know, used for plans to build something. But if that is what your goal is, then yes, go for that. That's fine. I won't be able to help you as much. No, I will. I mean, I'll try. So I don't want to discourage you from drawing for any purpose. So no matter what your purpose is, just remember to have fun. So this one is a little bit more accurate as far as your vanishing point, your horizon line, and everything. It all lines up beautifully. And but it's still really playful and fun. It's just a really neat line quality. Kind of like, to me, it's interesting, some of the things that we just, oops, the bear is probably in front of this. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that part out. But so what, same as here, you've got, or maybe these are just invisible creatures inhabiting the room. So you can see right through to the window. Part of that is kind of remembering to draw what's closest to you and working your way back. That is one tip when you're trying to draw like a bunch of cluttered or a lot of things at once. Getting that closest thing, then you don't have to erase, especially if you're doing pen. Here's one again that's really clean, really neatly done for the most part, and as far as like, yeah, you've got your horizon line out here and everything is going to that point. And it's all making sense. Here, I know that's not an interior, but I kept this in because from our talk about atmospheric perspective, even though this isn't really atmosphere getting in the way, but it's more the idea that the closer something is to you, the more you'll, it's bigger. You're going to reinforce some of those lines. As it goes back, it gets more generalized, kind of, you've got more of a kind of scribble to where it's just kind of going off to a few marks. These marks give you the indication that there's other cars. They're getting smaller and smaller as they go off into this 1 point kind of idea of 1 point perspective. I guess it's kind of 2 because you got this too, but mainly thinking about it as the road and the converging on that point on the horizon. And let's see. Oh, I included this just because it's kind of fun. Just if you are traveling or you're at these really cool sites with amazing architecture, to be able to see, you know, how you would do those kind of drawings and things, and drawing or painting or whatever. But I just think this is really beautifully done, of the arches, and you'd have a definite sense of space. And using color too, it's even darks like this. Here's one using a little bit of sketching and watercolor. This is one where I just like threw a bunch of watercolor down and then drew something. So it's kind of a fun little exercise to do. So the color doesn't make sense at all, but it kind of was a fun, playful activity anyway. But again, you've got this 1 point perspective on this, and another, I guess, non-interior. So if you're still wanting to stay outside because it's summer, feel free. You don't have to do interiors. But if you are stuck inside still, it's a great thing to practice. Here's one I did in last semester sketching in my studio. So we all took time to just draw fairly quickly wherever we were. And I was trying to give a point, a little sense of that interior of just doing a corner. So taking a corner of my studio, because if I did like out here, the other side, that's where the really big mess is. Actually, there's paintings all over this place right now. I wouldn't be able to do the same drawing. But so anyway, this is kind of the idea of just like capturing one little side or corner of your room. And it's a lot more doable and not as overwhelming. It's a good place to start. And see, I mean, honestly, it's just like really, really rough, quick treatment. A lot of, scribbly lines for shadow and mark making and just little bits. It is a fun way just to test out some different mark making. And, yes, my corners kind of come together and it's making sense as far as the room is concerned. So here's one somebody else did, B. Russell. I just happened upon this, and I love the use of color and the texture in it. And I like the perspective too, that we're looking down. So we're kind of standing up above this, maybe on a step or two up over in maybe a raised area of the house, and looking down. That way you can see the whole tabletop, which is fun. If you've ever wanted to draw a table all set, it's a really, really fun thing to try to do. To catch all these objects. It's like doing a whole lot of little still lifes at once. And here's another one that I found, and there was no name to credit anyway. Oh, it's up here. I didn't even see that. Okay. Anyway, it was off of Reddit, which I don't usually do. But I love the use of color here, and just like the carefree splatter and everything. So if you're doing little pen and ink and wanting to splatter a little watercolor on top, and just catching one little, just a little corner of your room. And again, here you're making use of 2 point perspective. See, these lines of the coffee table are coming back to that. Here's my horizon somewhere in there. These lines are coming back to that point, like way, way off there on the horizon. So when you're doing your horizon lines, not necessarily your vanishing points are not necessarily going to sit on the horizon line in your picture plane. It might be way, 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 way off the page. So that way you don't have like super sharp, tight angles. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes, it vanishes off at a much slower pace. You don't want this coming down to such a sharp point because it's right here in front of you. So that wouldn't make sense. Hopefully that's clear. Anyway. Did I put that one twice? See, I did have it in there. I put it back because I couldn't find it. Anyway, that is it for the sketches I wanted to share. And just hopefully this will give you a little bit of a inspiration for what you can do. I just, sit in the room you are in, try drawing just a little corner or something. Just jump in and do it, because you don't know until you do it. And if it looks kind of weird, then start dissecting it and putting in your vanishing point and your horizon line, your vanishing points, and see if you can clean some lines up that way. And if it still doesn't look right, draw it again and again. I mean, that's kind of how we learn. So just keep trying at it. You'll get it. And don't beat yourself up if it's wonky, because honestly, Van Gogh's work, when you think about his interiors, and they are off, but that's what makes them beautiful. So to see what you can do, try your best. Get some interior going. If you're really wanting to stay outside, then try some perspective outside too. Or instead, whatever you feel like drawing this week, just draw 5 times. I think 5 days, right? You can do this. Okay. And see ya.